welcome to another fun episode of the We Are Never Truly Alone podcast with myself, Tiffany Rice. And this episode, as always, I'm always saying that I'm excited, but I have a very good friend of mine, which we're all friends here, Julie Clapp. Julie.
Hi, everyone.
Julie Clapp is a fellow medium. So we figured we would talk medium to medium on what it's like being a medium, certain things that happen throughout our day that kind of, I don't know, may be spirit-led, and, you know, what you can expect from being a medium.
Yeah, I mean, It's definitely different from when I was a nurse. I can say that. It's a different lifestyle. I feel like it is your lifestyle, don't you? It's just not like a job. It's your lifestyle.
Oh, you can't shut it off. I always say it's great to set boundaries. Like, we can always set up boundaries, and we don't have to talk to spirit all the time, because that's one of the big questions I get, and I'm sure you get too, is that people are always saying like, oh my gosh, can you shut it off? Don't you get tired? Are they waking you up in the middle of the night? You know, like when
they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
So when you first learned that you were a medium, right? What were some of the, I don't want to say symptoms, right? Because it's not like it's an issue, right? But what was some of the situations that you found yourself in, or like, how did you know? That's a big question. People want to know, how did you know? How'd you find out? So what's your story?
Okay, so I feel like I have a very atypical story. Like, I remember, and I think that's why I questioned it, because I would hear a lot of medium stories like, oh, they were talking to dead people when they were like 2 years old, or they remember that. And I really didn't have that story. And so for me, I'll kind of share how the day that I knew that I was a medium was, I was actually in my bathroom. I call my bathroom a spirit portal. And I was getting ready for work. I worked 3 to 11 as a nurse. And I had an uncle that had been passed, and he kind of popped into my head like a daydream. Like when you just randomly something pops into your head. And I kind of paid attention to what I was daydreaming. And I was seeing images of this uncle, and he had a son that was with him in spirit. And I was seeing images of them together. And so it made me kind of pause and be like, why am I all of a sudden thinking of this? Like, I'm randomly getting ready for work. And the longer I kind of stayed tuned in to the daydream and what I was seeing, or was like inquisitive about what I was daydreaming, I started to see words kind of coming in or popping in. And it made me pause and go, I think he's talking to me, but not really believing that. And then in my head, I heard my uncle's voice so clear and so fast go, she can hear me. And I literally was like, was that me? Was that him? Is that real? Did that really happen? Like, it was such a confusing moment, but also a moment where I had this overwhelming rush of emotion. You know what I mean? You know, when
I do know what you mean, but did you think in the beginning, because I thought that I was going crazy.
Yes.
Or I thought I was a little bit tapped, a little bit different from everybody else. So were you thinking like, am I making this up because I want it to be, or am I going to trust it?
Yes, 150%. I literally did not tell anybody. I was like, I don't even know what just happened, but I'm just going to go to work. And I really didn't have the courage to tell anybody for like a couple of weeks. So after a couple of weeks, I had told one of my sisters, and I was like, do you think I'm crazy? And she was like, no, I don't think you're crazy. So my uncle had given me a message, and this is kind of crazy, but the message was for his son that was still alive. And he told me to tell him that it was time to get his shit together. And so I thought, no spirit would ever come through with a message like that. So I told my sister, and she called my cousin behind my back and told him. And I didn't know. And he called me on the phone, and he said, I have to tell you something. Your sister told me that you talked to my dad. And I was like, but I don't really know if I did. I could have made that up. I don't know what happened. And he said, what you don't know is when my dad was dying, we were alone in his hospital room together. And he said to me, you're going to grieve me, and it's okay, but there's going to come a day where you're going to need to get your shit together and move on with your life.
Oh my God.
And he said, nobody knows to this day that my dad said those words to me before he died. So I was like, oh my God, I don't know what happened. And that was really the moment that the first time, like, I felt like a spirit told me something that was validated by somebody else. So that was the first like communication I acknowledged from a loved one on the other side.
And that was your aha moment.
Yes.
That's
it really
amazing.
was. But I still feel like I tested it. Like, I went through this long period where I was like, I just don't know. I mean, I always believed in spirit. I always had a strong belief in heaven and the afterlife. I just didn't believe in myself. So I always tell people I was my own greatest skeptic. So even if skeptics would sit in front of me, I'd be like, you can be as skeptical as you want, because nobody's going to be more skeptical of me than I was at the beginning of my mediumship. Did you feel that way?
1000%. And I still do sometimes. Like, I think to myself, wait a minute, am I making this up? Like, is this real? What's going on? You know? But whenever I get that inkling of self-doubt, that's just my ego speaking.
Yes.
And so for anybody out there that's learning to increase their awareness of their own intuition, we have to allow ourselves to let go of that ego. We have to allow ourselves to let go of that insecurity, because the reality of when spirit comes to connect with us, it's not because they want to talk to us. No, they want to talk to their person that's talking to us. So we have to realize that it's not our story.
Yeah.
So we have to get our ego out of it, listen, and then deliver exactly the information that's being told.
Yeah, I really feel like that is part of the process of that growth, is learning kind of how to get out of the way in that feeling. I remember, my first time giving a reading and thinking, what if nobody shows up? What if they have nothing to say? Like, what am I going to do? Like, what an awkward moment. But that, that never happened. There was always somebody there. There was always something they had to say. And so it was like that slow process of getting out of the way and just trusting spirit more than I trusted myself, because I didn't trust myself.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with us. And if we've realized, we could have a whole other show on ego, but if we just realized that it was all connected, intertwined into just really listening to that vibration of energy of what that spirit is or who that spirit is, we could just hear so clearly, we'd be able to be such amazing vessels of energy.
It really is. And I did find the more I was able to kind of like lovingly embrace that fear side or that ego side of myself, that my readings got a lot clearer. You get more clarity because that fear is not blocking it anymore. The fear of what that person, what their sitter thinks of you, that none of that even comes into the equation anymore. And so it's really just you kind of blending with that spirit loved one and kind of all that other energy out of the way. And that's when I feel like I have the best readings. And sometimes, like, you probably feel that way too, when you have a sitter that comes and they're really nervous or they've never had a reading before. They don't know what that process looks like. And you kind of feel their energy and you're like, okay, you need to get your energy out of the way a little bit to make this happen.
So, people come in all walks of life wanting to hear, because grief affects everyone. So, okay, I have a couple questions for you. All right. And I'll play too, I guess. But where's the craziest place you've done a reading?
In a bathroom.
I was just going to say that, me too. One of the places, I was in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, and they're like, we're doing this convention. And so I did this convention. Oh, sorry. Why don't you tell your story? See, I just got so excited.
Go
oh my gosh.
I got to think of mine. Go ahead. Yeah.
But I said, I'm like, well, I need a private area to do my readings. I can't just do them out here. Right. And so they were like, well, how about the bathroom? So I literally went into the ladies' room, and in between people coming in and out, I was giving readings. That was back in 2010 when I was just baby SpiritTiff. So yeah, tell me your bathroom or in a closet.
I will tell you, actually, the most recent bathroom story was actually at Sam's wedding.
Wait, you've done them multiple times?
Recently, yeah. Like people in the bathroom, and that, I feel like when somebody approaches you about being a medium, you just automatically like, I'm going to open up. You feel like once I know they're open to it, because you're going to feel things no matter where you go. I more so shut it down, so that I have some time for myself, but also because I don't want to cross those ethical boundaries with people who don't want that from me. So I'm not diving into everybody's energy field. But as soon as somebody approaches me about it, then I'm like, okay, well, let it flow. Let's let it flow here and see what happens. So if that's in a bathroom, it's in the bathroom. Right? If you don't care, I don't care. They're not looking. So yeah. The most recent one was, Sam's wedding. I was giving guests at her wedding readings.
So your niece's wedding back in November. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. But it's just so funny, because it's when you get to have that type of connection. Yeah. You want to be able to give them something, share something with them.
Yeah.
What about, let's see. I know I always get asked to do a lot of paranormal type stuff. Would you ever consider doing anything in the paranormal?
I probably would now. I would, in the beginning of my mediumship, I would have been like, hey, oh no. Because I was so terrified. I mean, I think because, I was raised Irish Catholic. So I had this strong fear of the spirit world. And so, movies, whatever my conditioning was, it was to fear the spirit world more than to embrace it. So I think that was a process in and of itself. But once I kind of came into my abilities and I realized your vibration dictates a lot of what you attract to you, then you come into that power of knowing really nothing outside of you has power over you. I always tell people, don't worry about spirits, worry about the ones that have a body, because those are the ones you can't control. The spirits in the body, not the ones that don't have a body. You can always control the energy that you engage with or that you dance with. So more so now, and I've always been super curious about the paranormal.
Then you should come with me to the Conjuring House. I'm always at the Conjuring House.
I have to get my brave on.
Yes, I'll grab your black tourmaline. You're fine. You're fine.
I've never done like ghost hunting stuff or anything like that, but I will say, I've always been curious about it. Ever since I was little, I always had a curiosity about
because you were talking to spirits and you had no idea. That's why.
I mean, I did use a Ouija board when I was younger.
Yes, me too. But it's just so funny because, that's part of my story is I tell people that I was constantly, when I was little, I played with a Ouija board at my neighbor's house. And then I had Ouija land. I always had a very vivid imagination. But then as I got older, I would rather go get my cards read than go to a party in the woods. Yes. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't handle these people. So I was like, just tell me my future and who I'm going to marry. Yeah. I still ask the same questions. So, I'm always I knew at a young age, I was just a little bit different, but I didn't understand it, you know? So it's funny that even you're saying I played a Ouija board, but I was scared because you were probably just tuned into the scary movies. That's the ghost and scary stuff. But then you're like, well, I connect with spirit and that's not scary. It's the same thing,
Julie.
It's the same thing. Julie, it's the same thing.
I know. And now I tell people it's that is just a tool to connect with the spirit world. So it's not if I would encourage or discourage. I would say I would encourage people to explore that, but within the realm of feeling safe, to explore it the way that feels safe, because you don't want to bring fear into that equation at all when you're connecting with the spirit world.
Right.
But yeah, I wish that I had known then what I know now, because I wouldn't have probably been blocked so much by fear. If I had known. There's really nothing to fear with spirit.
I love it. I love it. Yes. So you're going to have to come with me to the Conjuring House, which is one of the most haunted locations in America. So
I know. I mean, I definitely get vibes. I mean, when I used to do house parties, people would be like, do you feel anything in my house? And I know you probably do that too. Everywhere you go, people are like, what do you feel in my house? Is there anything bad in here? But no matter where you go, I feel like anywhere you can pick up on the history or the energy of that space. Do you feel that way?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about, have you ever felt compelled psychically, because as mediums, we're also psychic as well. So have you ever felt compelled psychically to tell somebody something like, oh, you're kind of in a bad situation, bad relationship, or, hey, guess what? I think you're pregnant, something like that. What about something fun? Let's just raise the vibration here. How about pregnancy? Have you ever felt the need to be like, I think you should go get a test?
I have definitely picked that up from people. It's mostly people that I'm comfortable with.
Yes.
That I'm I know they're open to it, and so I'm comfortable. And so if something pops in, I'm going to tell them oh, you're going to be having a baby soon, or this is what I see coming up for you. People that I know want it from me. But the funny thing is when I started mediumship, people would ask me psychic questions, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not a psychic. Oh, no. I just talk to dead people. I don't get any of that psychic stuff. I'm not the girl that the phone rings and I know who's on the other end. And then I, very quickly, I realized my guides slowly started, that would happen. I'd be reading somebody and I felt compelled to be like, oh my God, they're saying something about a baby. I've never gotten anything like that before, And then I'm like, oh my God, that is part of the deal.
Yes,
the same thing.
It's the same.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because when people book readings with me, it's always the mediumship. And I'm like, well, I can tell you what's going on with your life. But and they're like, no, I want to know about mediumship.
Yeah.
What's your favorite color?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. Right now, it changes. I feel like my color changes. Right now, I'm blue. As you can see,
blue. My is blue. So I always say, okay, so blue, what's that? Throat chakra. What do you have to get off your mind? Why are you drawn to the blue? Coolness, calmness, non-confrontational. We are in Pisces season now. Yes. So we're little fishies in a water, but full of emotion. So maybe that could be why.
And I also feel like I'm drawn to blue, just like you said, throat chakra, because I'm an empath. And so for so many years, I would hold everything in, bottle it up. And so many people that are intuitive do the same thing, right? And I feel like mediumship is a process of self-discovery and coming into the truth of who you are and how to really authentically express yourself and be comfortable with that.
Yes, I always say that. It's that true authenticity, you know, and so many people, we have to learn how to find our dharma, right? And which is our soul purpose. And I feel that mediumship is my soul purpose. And I'm sure that you would have the exact same answer.
And now that you say like finding our dharma, I do feel like a big process I went through on that journey of awakening and self-discovery was transcending like those karmic patterns, right? As being an empath or whatever karmic patterns were showing up in my life. And that's kind of how you transcend. And that's also, I feel like, what helped me to learn about manifesting. So do you feel like manifesting, like you just, because of your mediumship, you came into learning how to manifest?
Yes, because we're all energy.
Right?
And that's the fun thing is that I'm doing a lot with manifesting lately. And I was just saying that like what you think, it becomes, right? Yes. And it's about like letting go of everything that you know and letting go of body, letting go of material things, everything, in order for you to attain everything that is meant for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the quote I read this morning? It was kind of, the undertone was gratitude, but I posted it and I totally forget. But it was
okay. So what you posted this morning was you think you already are, or something like that.
Yes, it was something like, in order to have everything that you want, you have to know that it already is so.
Exactly.
It's coming into that knowing of it already is so. And I truly like it. It made me, I don't even know. I have to give credit to that quote. I don't know who wrote it because there was no credit when I saw it. But for some reason, this Pisces season and this flow that we're in and this manifesting energy, I feel like that hit me. And I was like, okay, it is that way. Like we're not separate really from anything that we desire. We just need to embody that energy or that feeling of it already is so.
Exactly.
And we're not separate from it. And so it was that, just coming into that, we actually don't need anything outside of ourselves because we can bring ourselves to that feeling whenever we want.
And I wish everybody that's listening, I wish you really believed that, you know? And it's like, well, that's another episode that we could do about like, how do we start manifesting? How do we get into the realm of actually attracting, like I said, last year, 2022 was all about the alignment. And a lot of us got tough lessons that we had to really learn to peel back, but it brought us to a level of full alignment, which is what we needed. So 2023 is all about that attraction, right? So now it's like setting that intention and creating that emotion behind it so you're able to attract everything that is meant for you. Because it's going to happen regardless. Yeah. We don't have control as much as like we're psychic and we get these feelings and we can pick up on things. Yeah. But there's also free will.
Exactly.
So we say that in our readings. Like I tell people, I'm like, look, at this moment, at this time, Tuesday at 1 p.m., Eastern Standard Time, this is what I'm feeling. But after this reading, if you go and you take a right out of here instead of taking a left, your whole world could change.
Yes.
Because you're seeing things differently. Your timelines change. Everything has changed. And it just takes one split decision. And that decision's based on free will.
Exactly. And I always say to people, when I'm talking about manifesting, how much healing and intuition is a part of that process that people don't realize. Because just like you said, you could be driving down the road and it's your intuition, it's your gut that says, take a right instead of take a left. And that's really about being in that, finding that sweet spot of I'm in the right place at the right time. And if you don't really know what your intuitive voice sounds like and you don't know how to listen to that guidance, then you're missing out kind of on those, the universe can bring all these things into your experience. And if you're not listening to where your voice is guiding you to be to line up with them, you could be missing a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so absolutely.
Like, it all kind of ties in. I feel like all of those abilities became parallels. Like as my mediumship enhanced, then my intuition enhanced, then I may have to do a little bit more healing work to get to that higher frequency of energy. But then guess what? At that higher frequency, through, that tunnel of healing was all these manifestations.
Exactly.
You're right. And so it's all part of this process where it comes full circle, right? And you're coming into all of these amazing abilities and gifts that we all have.
We have to start with doing the healing first. And trusting that gut that's in our stomach. We have to trust that gut. And I think that can be really difficult because a lot of us come from a place of self-doubt or insecurity, depending on what maybe family members have said, or friends or partners, or I don't know, people that you went to school with. Like, it could be any outside factor that made us question our worth and stunted our development somewhere. And that could be why we get triggered on so many things where we don't feel like we should be trusting our gut, because we're used to going on what somebody else tells us to be the truth. So it's really learning to be able to cut away your old beliefs and trusting that the power lies within you.
Yes. Yeah. Getting rid of that conditioning that we all have that is so deeply ingrained in us, and relearning the truth of what our souls kind of know to be true versus what our brains are telling us should be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it really defies logic.
It does. I mean, we can't, you're right, because I try so many times to explain, and it's one of those things where you just have to experience your own aha moment.
Yeah. And I even tell people, with manifesting, I sometimes will fall back into my old patterns of that hustle and grind, that, 3D manifesting where, and I'm just going to hustle and grind to get what I want, versus really that, okay, I'm not, I'm going to sit in stillness. I'm going to really trust. I'm going to get in the energy. I'm going to embody the manifestation type of, and so I go back and forth between that too. I'm human too. My ego gets the best of me sometimes, but it's that knowing. I always come back to the knowing. And so when I post something on manifestation, people comment, I hope so. And I'm like, no.
You know so.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I know. Whenever I see the word hope, or like somebody writes it, and I'm like, no, cut that out. It is. It is.
Yes.
So what's one takeaway for everybody that's listening tonight or tomorrow or in the morning on their way to work? What's one takeaway for you being a medium where something that is so profound in yourself? Like I always say, which is the name of the podcast, we're never truly alone. Like, remember guys, we're never truly alone. So if somebody is maybe looking to become or open up their intuition, maybe they're going through grief, what's one thing that you could tell them?
I would tell people, if you feel guided to explore this, to not let fear hold you back, not let your conditioning hold you back, not let the people in your life hold you back. Because it's typically when all those things are trying to pull you back from something that you feel so deeply guided to explore or to step into, that means you're supposed to go there. You're supposed to go into that direction. And it's kind of just a test of your will and your fate and your destiny. And I feel like that's where all the magic lies, is when you go in that direction, when you listen to the inner voice instead of all the outside voices that are pulling you elsewhere.
Exactly. And the universe is always going to show you, or if you ignore it, the universe is going to show it to you over and over and over again until you're finally like, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Julie, for being on the show.
You.
And for you guys that are just tuning in, you guys know Julie and I do gallery readings all over Massachusetts, hopefully to expand further. But you can always go to my website, tiffanyrice.com. Julie, what's your website?
divinityspiritshop.com.
Yes. So thank you so much. And I cannot wait to have you back on another episode of We Are Never Truly Alone. Have an amazing day, guys. And just know that your loved ones are always here. And I hope that whatever you have going on, your day gets 10 times better, 1,000 times better than what's happening right now.
And so it is.
Always is, right?
Yeah.
I just said hope. Oh my gosh. I just used the wrong thing, but your day's getting better. All right, guys. Have a good day.
Have a good night.